Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. The SMG meta here in Warzone Season 2 is easily the most competitive it's ever been. It is so hard to go in and say, okay, this is clearly the best SMG, the second best SMG, the third, so on and so forth. The competition in this category right now is insane, and that's awesome to see. But today, I'm gonna try my best to break down the top 5 best SMG loadouts you want to be running right now. We're starting first with number 5, the WASP-9. This thing is honestly one of my favorite SMGs in the game. It just got buffed a decent amount with Season 2. It's got really good mobility, it's relatively easy to use, and it's got a surprisingly good TTK in the close range and even the early mid range as well. And what I love about this setup is it's also doing all of that while being extremely aggressive. So initially here, because it is so easy to use, I'm just going for the Shadow Strike Suppressor. Simply keeps me off the map. That said, if you want to make it even easier and you're okay with showing up on the radar, the ZEM35 Compensator is a great choice here. Better control and really very minimal cons to your ADS speed and your velocity. So either or there is going to work great. I've recently dropped the stock and gone on over to the short barrel here, helping out with the ADS speed, the sprint to fire speed, your general sprint speed as well. So just boosting it up a little bit, very minimal cons to the overall control there as well. We're going for the DR6 hand stop, even better movement, strafe, ADS, and sprint to fire speeds across the board, making this thing super agile and aggressive. We got the 50 round extended mag, very basic there. Then I also don't really love the irons here. They're kind of bulky and can block some things. So I just go for your basic elo sight. This thing's nice and clean, really visible in the close range and doesn't really slow you down. So this setup in general is very predictable in terms of control, but also will fry and can hold its own with pretty much all the other SMGs in the game at varying distances. Now at number 4, I've got the Striker 9. I especially love the feel of this thing too. This build in particular, I think is so much fun because it is kind of a laser beam like SMG, but it also kills super quick and you can fly around the map with this thing. This is a mobility based setup that also has pretty surprising range at the same time. You're kind of getting the best of both worlds here. So in this case, I am using the ZEM35 Compensator. Helps out a lot with that vertical, a little bit of horizontal, minimal cons to your movement and velo. And I'm using that because I've got no stock on here to really boost up my mobility across the board. Crazy good strafe speed, ADS speed, sprint to fire. You're gonna be flying around with this thing. I love that sort of aspect of this. I don't love the irons here either all that much, so I go for a NIDAR 2023 scope on here, a pretty clean yellow dot, and I feel very accurate with that. The 50 round drum, basic extended mag. Then I go for the Recon long barrel. It really doesn't hurt your mobility all that much. 3% to your ADS strafe and then 5% to your sprint to fire is not a huge deal. We're still sitting at a 90 millisecond sprint to fire, which is really good for subs, and it helps out your range and your velocity a lot, giving this some versatility aspects that other SMGs just don't have. So this setup in general can really do well whether you're fighting at 5 meters or 25 meters. It's going to be a great option. I love the feel of it. Now as we move into by far the most competitive top 3 out of any weapon category, if you're new to the channel or you simply have not subscribed yet, every single day I'm your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about COD, whether it's news, updates, patch notes, meta breakdowns. It's all right here. So feel free to hit that subscribe button and turn on those post notifications. And if you enjoy this video or if you find it helpful, do me a favor, drop a like on it. It is seriously appreciated and it does really help the channel grow. Now, like I said, picking out a top 3 was not easy. And quite frankly, all 3 of these next weapons, you could say that's the number 1 SMG, and on any given day, you'd be right. At number 3 though, for me personally, I've got the AMR-9. While this does have the best in class range for an SMG and one of the best TTKs in the class as well, the downside here is that its sprint to fire, even with a max mobility build like this, is still really bad for an SMG, and that speed decrease that you get in comparison to others can honestly get you killed in some gunfights if you're playing a little bit more aggressive. That said, it's still so good at the same time, so long as you get your sights up, you're sliding around consistently. So initially here I have changed the build up a little bit. I'm going for that ZEM35 Compensator instead of a suppressor. While it is only hurting my ADS speed and that velocity, that's still really good for an SMG 593. We can gain the ADS speed back elsewhere. It'll help make it a little bit easier too, especially because I am using iron sights on this build in specific. The skeletal vertical grip is great here. It's helping out with some control, but also gives you a better ADS and a better sprint to fire. More importantly, that's huge there. Basic 50 round extended mag per usual. The phantom rear grip I am using instead of an optic because 24% to your sprint to fire is huge. That's so clutch where we really need to get that sprint to fire down as fast as we can. Then I also go for the buffer tube stock. Of course, it's doing a ton for sprint to fire as well. General ADS speed, general movement speed, and it is hurting that control a decent bit, and that's why we've got the compensator on there to make things a little bit easier. So this is about as fast of an AMR-9 build as you can make. It's still going to be noticeable with that slower sprint to fire, but if you're just hitting shots with this thing, you will obliterate every enemy you run into. Its TTK is just that good. Hey everyone, quickly wanted to give a shout out to my friends over at G Fuel. We've got our in-game metas that we of course talk about all the time, but we also got to show some love to the out-of-game metas as well. And the most effective tactic available, the meta for staying focused and energized, is picking up some G Fuel. They got a little bit of something for everyone in terms of flavors, but my personal favorites, Hype Sauce, the GOAT. They also just brought back Watermelon Mint, which is absolutely incredible. And lately, I've also been loving the new Sage Mode Hydration Tub as well. There's no caffeine in that, just perfect for staying hydrated. And if you do want to pick up anything for yourself, be sure to throw in code IMMORTAL at checkout for a nice little discount. The link for that will be down below if you're interested. Now, at number 2 for me is our brand new Ram 9. And the reason that I've got this at number 2 again is that sprint of fire. Much like the AMR 9, it's definitely not as good as it could be for an SMG. So you are limited by that to a certain extent. That said, this thing's got a crazy fast TTK in its first damage range, then its mid-range properties are also super effective as well. And this setup in particular, I love it. We've talked about this one a lot lately. I'm sure you guys might be tired of hearing it, but it's a good weapon, and we can't deny that objectively. I want to give you guys the best loadouts every single day, even if sometimes it is similar setups to what we've already talked about. So again, Zem 35 compensator here, just making it nice and accurate. The Imperator Light Barrel extends that damage range that makes that first fast TTK area even longer, which is always great to see. Helps out with velocity for some of the mid-range where it also thrives, and helps out with the strafe speed, which is awesome too. Keep in mind, this setup though, unlike the AMR 9, is not nearly as optimized for sprint to fire. Its base stats are pretty fast though, so you can kind of get around that for what it's worth. 50 round extended mag there, always, you know, convenient to have the max ammo. Retort 90 grip tape for better control. That said, if you are already comfortable with this build, go over to the haste. You can get a better sprint to fire speed and help out there a decent bit. And then lastly here, I'm going for the motion tac pad. That's going to help out with sprint to fire yet again, some ADS speed, a little bit of hip fire, so you can sort of transition between that and ADS mid gunfight if you need. This thing though, it's new, it's fresh, it's fun, really been enjoying it as of late. Then lastly, at number 1, I've got the HMR 9, and as I said, any of these last 3 subs you could claim as the number 1 and you'd have a solid case. To me though, I just love the HMR 9 because I feel it's the most balanced of the 3. It's got a super competitive TTK, very close to the RAM and to the AMR 9 in a lot of different ranges. It's also snappy and aggressive, good sprint to fire speed. It's low recoil and has a really good damage range as well. So this, I feel like, is checking the most boxes out of what's necessary in a meta weapon. So initially, again, I'm going for that Zem 35 compensator, just straight up with that better control there. I've got the Princeps long barrel, extends that first damage range, that effective damage range, out to 16 meters. That's insanely good for a sub. Also helps out that with that velocity. And even though it's hurting our sprint to fire, we're still at 86 milliseconds, which is so fast in comparison to some of those other top options, of course. 50 round extended mag, of course, as well on there. We've got the assault rear grip, basically free control here, only hurting that idle sway. And again, if you're super comfortable with this build, you could always go for the handler and speed up that sprint to fire even more and have an even more aggressive build. Lastly, I got no stock on here. Viable despite the fact that you're losing a lot of control, because we do have that compensator on here, and speeds it up even more. So you're gonna fly and fry with this thing. And like I said, I just feel this is the most consistent out of all the SMGs and most well balanced we have across the board out of all the SMGs right now. And that said, that's gonna wrap things up. If you enjoyed the video or if you found it helpful, do me a favor and drop a like on it. And if you're new to the channel, you want to guarantee you're always up to date, be sure to hit that subscribe button on your way out. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you later. Peace out.